Hi everyone, Aaron here for Zollotech, and this week we have a lot to talk about with Apple's upcoming event or experience, also new iPhones, as well as what's coming in the future with devices and more. This is your weekly Apple news update for the week of February 23rd, 2026. Apple's satellite feature became life-saving once again, where 6 skiers in Lake Tahoe who had survived an avalanche used emergency SOS via satellite to call for help, according to the New York Times. The feature allowed the skiers to reach out for help and communicate back and forth with emergency services for hours. So this is a great feature that they're supposed to even enhance more in the future, and it seems to be helping save lives and just make communication available if you're in a remote area. Now this weekend, in my weekend follow-up video, I talked about how there was a report for the Apple C1X modem in the iPhone Air failing. It seems like it's a one-off issue, but some people have had this happen where it goes to SOS, including myself. A reboot seems to fix it, but in the case of this user, it didn't fix it. They take care of their phone, they even use dual SIMs, they tried restarting it, resetting it, and nothing seemed to fix it. When they ran a diagnostic, it even says that mobile service diagnostic, mobile service issue detected. So Apple will typically take care of this, but this would definitely be something that would be unfortunate if you woke up and found that you had zero signal. I'd be curious if you had any issues with the C1 modem in the iPhone 16e, C1X in the iPhone Air, or M5 iPad Pro. Let me know in the comments below. If you're someone that subscribes to Apple TV, you now have new services for free. If we go home here and scroll down, continue to scroll down, you'll see that we now have the option for MLS Soccer for free. This is no longer an add-on subscription. You can just watch it as long as you subscribe to Apple TV. So in prior years, you had to add this on. Now it's just provided for free. The same is true with F1 in the United States. Apple really ramped up with this year, and now that they own the rights in the United States, you can watch things such as the upcoming Australia race, the weekend warm-up, and more. So there's a whole section dedicated to F1 as well as MLS, all provided free as long as you subscribe with Apple TV. Apple's upcoming experience, which they sent invites out for this past week, where it's on March 4th, 2026 at 9 a.m. Eastern Time. This is an experience, not an event that will be live streamed, it seems, but it could be a week of releases. According to John Gruber of Daring Fireball, he suspects Apple will release products starting on Monday, March 2nd and finish on Wednesday, March 4th. For example, we could see the iPhone 17e on Monday. However, we could even see that earlier, such as this week or by the time you're watching this video, and then we could see iPads on Tuesday and maybe MacBooks on Wednesday and more. Hopefully this is the case. I really sort of like it when they roll them out day to day, as it's not a ton of information all at once, but hopefully they'll have some of that very soon. Also, according to Mark Gurman on Sunday in his Power On newsletter, Apple is going to release at least 5 new products this coming week. So not this week, but the following week after the event or around the event time, we should see the iPhone 17e, an M5 MacBook Air, an M5 Pro, an M5 Max MacBook Pro, an M4 iPad Air, a base A18 iPad, M5 Max and M5 Ultra Mac Studio possibly, as well as a new Studio display too. All of those things are expected to launch in just a couple weeks, so hopefully we see a bunch of those. I'm looking forward to a new Mac Studio, as I have an M1 Ultra, and maybe the new M5 Ultra MacBook Pro or M5 Max MacBook Pro. Hopefully we'll see something like that, but there's still supposed to be a redesign later this year. Also, one other thing I forgot to mention that has to do with F1 is Apple is now partnering with IMAX to show some races in theaters live. 5 of the races this year will be shown on the big screen if you want to join in, with Silverstone, Miami, Monaco, Monza, and Austin. So those races in particular will be in supported IMAX theaters. When it comes to app updates this week, well, there were quite a few to talk about. I mentioned last week how if you have a Rivian, they were going to release a new watch app, and then they released it not long after that. So you can see it here, new software, Rivian Apple Watch app, that allows you to connect and control it. They have a little demo on YouTube with a video about it, but basically it's just a watch app that lets you control your vehicle from the watch, see its state of charge, and more. Also, if you have Chrome on Mac, it now has split view support built in for Google Drive, PDFs, and multitasking. Google posted about it here, where it says new features in Chrome for work, life, and everything in between. So you can listen to the article, but again, see split view with multitasking built right in instead of having to have it built into the operating system. Also, Toyota is now finally launching car keys in the United States. It seems to be only on one vehicle so far, the 2026 RAV4, but you can see a user posted it on Reddit where they now have it paired to their Apple Wallet. So this is super convenient. In this case, you can unlock the car and sound off the alarm. Other vehicles offer more features, but it just depends on the car. But hopefully we see more and more of this, as it's really convenient just to use your phone as your key. WhatsApp released a new feature this week called Group Message History. It says it's a more private way to catch up in group chats. They released it on their blog, and it says now group admins and members can choose to send recent messages to new members so they can catch up quickly. So that's available now, and there's a new feature coming soon which would allow you to hide messages if they're marked as containing spoilers. Maybe you're talking to someone about an upcoming movie that you've seen, they haven't seen it yet, and you want to talk about the ending. You can actually mark that as a spoiler so it doesn't ruin it for everybody else. That should be in a future release though. When it comes to weekly Apple deals, if you don't care about having the latest AirTag 2 that Apple recently released, AirTag 1 4-packs are down to about $65 on Amazon from Apple. The price varies. I've seen it go from $64 to $70, but it's discounted compared to $99 for AirTags 2. Also, AirPods Pro 3 are down to about $209. AirPods 4 are down to $99 for those without ANC. And the MagSafe battery pack is also released cheaper as well. So instead of $100, they're about $80. So I'll link all of these along with all the other deals for this week in the description below. So be sure to check that out if you're interested. When it comes to releases this week, well, Apple recently stopped signing iOS 26.2.1 and iOS 18.7.4. That means we could see an update within a couple weeks typically, possibly in iOS 26.3.1 before the release of iOS 26.4, as that should be at least a few weeks out. So maybe we'll see that in a week or two. However, we could see iOS 26.4 Beta 2 in another week. Typically after Beta 1, there's a week gap where we have it the following week in bi-weekly release schedules. So that's typically between Beta 1, 2, and 3, and then they move to a weekly schedule. Apple's been changing this up a lot lately, so they could change that, but either way, we could see it probably as soon as the week of March 2nd or March 1st, depending on when the start of the week is for you. But either way, we could see it that week, and maybe we'll see a follow-up to that with Beta 3 on the 15th with a public release maybe around the 29th. We just don't know how many betas there will be at this point. Of course, the exciting update should be iOS 27, or at least when they add the new Siri update, if that's 26.4 betas or 26.5. But iOS 27 is expected to be shown for the first time in June, usually around June 8th, and that will be at WWDC 2026 or the Worldwide Developer Conference for 2026. So that's typically where we see Beta 1. We'll have betas throughout the summer and typically a September release around the new iPhone release. So that's what we can expect as far as releases so far. Now, as I just mentioned, iOS 27 is just a few months away from being shown for the first time, but it's certainly different this year than last year where we had all sorts of leaks by now. We thought it would be called iOS 19, then later on people said no, it's going to be iOS 26, it's going to have a redesign. There were people talking about stability, others talking about features. Now we have almost nothing. So it makes me think iOS 27 will actually be the Snow Leopard version of iOS this year. Years ago, Apple released a macOS version called Leopard. Then a year later, they released Snow Leopard to sort of fix all the issues and make it as stable as possible. We're expecting that with iOS 27 this year. We'll see cleanup, refinement, and battery improvements according to Mark Gurman based off of that, or at least that's what Apple's hoping for. So I look forward to that. I know it won't be as exciting as far as content, but at least we'll have stability and bring Apple back to what it was known for with reliability on the iPhone. When it comes to iPhone 18, Apple introduced some bold colors this year, not only the basic silver color, but also orange and blue, and many people have really liked that. According to Mark Gurman this weekend, he said that Apple is testing a deep red color. So it could be more of a burgundy, we've heard this before, but I would welcome one that's closer to product red that we haven't seen for some time. So just like this iPhone XR, I really like the color of it. I would love to see an iPhone Pro model with that same color. We haven't had that for years, and I would definitely welcome it. We used to get mid-year colors, so sometimes we'd get a green color, we'd get product red, but it's been a while since we've had that. So I would definitely love to see some new colors like that. Mark Gurman is also saying that the iPhone Fold will only have two colors this year, with either a gray or black option and a silver or white option. So it could look like this and be called silver, or it could be called white, but we'll only have two colors to start with, and that's typically what I would expect from Apple. That's what they did years ago with iPhone 5, iPhone 4, and before that, so it makes sense to try out maybe a new product line with something like that. Now, many people have been asking me about iPad. Quite a few of you in last week's news video said I just sort of glanced over the iPad, and that's because the base iPad is expected to release with just a chipset bump. It will supposedly support Apple Intelligence and just have a chipset bump, and that's about it. However, the iPad Air is also again expected to just have an M4 chipset. So not anything massive here, just a slight change as far as the chipset and basically the same form factor. The iPad Pro is not expected to get an update for quite some time. We're expecting this to basically be the form factor for more than a year at this point. And of course, we could see an M6 in this maybe later this year or next year, but at this point, there's not really any changes to the form factor, it seems. When it comes to releases, of course, the week of Apple's event in March, we expect new Macs. A new low-cost MacBook is set to launch, and the M1 MacBook Airs are now out of stock at Walmart as that new MacBook nears to replace it. The low-cost MacBook is said to be released in 4 different colors, according to Instant Digital on Weibo, who said that the Apple Experience Invite logo matches the colors of the new Mac. The same leaker also said that Apple was originally testing more vibrant colors similar to the lower-cost Mac colors on the MacBook Air, but then never released them. It seems they wanted to leave that for the lower-cost model. So again, we're looking for a new M5 MacBook Air to replace this one. This is the M4, and then of course the M5 Pro, M5 Max, and then M5 Ultra in the Mac Studio. That leaves the Mac Mini as well as the iMac yet to be updated. Maybe we'll see that later on. But either way, this could be a very big release in the next week or two. So we'll have to wait and see what Apple does, as many of those products are also low on stock at Apple stores. So I would expect something pretty big. Now, it seems Apple is not only working on smart glasses for the near future, but 3 AI wearable devices, according to Mark Gurman of Bloomberg. He says Apple is working on those smart glasses, but to go along with that, we could see AirPods with cameras. We've heard this before, and recent rumors suggest that the cameras could see around you, and possibly we could get information for visual intelligence, maybe something else that we just don't know about yet. I think the oddest thing that he mentioned is maybe something like a pendant like we've seen from other companies. So a pendant that could be worn around your neck as a necklace or pinned to clothes. We've seen this before. They tend to fail, but either way, we could have that with an AI component in it where you talk to it and sort of get answers with Siri. Again, this all hinges on Apple updating to Siri 2.0 with their Gemini integration or maybe a chatbot in iOS 27. And based on waiting for that Siri 2.0 upgrade, that's why we haven't seen new HomePod, the new HomePod Mini upgrade, as well as the new home device that's rumored to have a display on it. So all of those things are probably hinging on that new Siri 2.0 version, a chatbot that could come with iOS 27, as it just wasn't ready in time. So all of those things are what we expect next. But either way, we'll have to wait and see if they finally release it this year. So I'm looking forward to what's coming in a week or so. Definitely excited for new Macs, some new updates, and everything else that's supposed to be released. Let me know what you're looking most forward to in the comments below, and of course I'll link this wallpaper in the description like I normally do. If you haven't subscribed already though, please subscribe, and if you enjoyed the video, please give it a like. As always, thanks for watching. This is Aaron. I'll see you next time.